I really can't stay. Oh, but it's cold outside. Everyone wanted to ban that song for some reason, but it's freaking cold outside. There's an ice storm. So I'm, holed up at home, and I'm going to review Killer Mike's Netflix show, Trigger Warning. So hi everyone, this is Felicia, Super Nerdy Church Girl, and Netflix debuted a new show on January 18th. It's Killer Mike. He's a rapper. He's one half of the duo Run the Jewels. I'm not familiar with that rap group, but apparently they're, very successful. And I am familiar with Killer Mike just because he was very vocal in the past presidential election, and he was a big supporter of Bernie Sanders. So in this Netflix show, there are like 6 parts, and I just watched the first part, which is I wrote it down. I think it's called Living Black. So the first show, Mike he has 3 days. He's in Georgia, and he's attempting to live black for 3 days. And in the process, he's traveling from Atlanta to Athens, Georgia for a show. And by living black, that means purchasing his sustainable, needs from black sources. So shelter, food, transportation, those basic necessities, communication. And so the name of this series is Trigger Warning. So initially I thought it would be something a bit more edgy and confrontational, and it may just be that later on. I'm just reviewing the first episode, but it also may mean like triggers, like it may trigger thought, it may trigger defensiveness in some. But I thought this was very interesting. It brought up a lot of points, mainly how African Americans are so dependent on other ethnic groups in terms of our own personal sustainability. Initially, he was trying to get around, and he made this decision. He's talking to a non-black friend, and the friend was just like, well, that's going to be hard because once African Americans start to patronize like these white institutions, it's hard for them to go back to buying black. And I thought that was a little insulting, but also very true. And I know personally there's like this adage of how difficult it is to patronize black-owned businesses. And I'm an author, and I sell books, and I'm also an apparel merchandiser. So I would like to think that I am very, cognizant of being customer oriented and customer friendly. But I'm pretty sure we've all, heard this. So he initially has to he walks to the headquarters of WeBuyBlack.com. And WeBuyBlack.com is a website that promotes black-owned businesses. So and I was just looking at this I guess you call it documentary. I was surprised that there are like black-owned batteries. Like I think they were called Tubmans, and black-owned soaps, which of course I knew that part, like black-owned dish detergent and washing powder and tissue. And you could really, if this was important to you, really sustain like your basic needs through patronizing black-owned businesses, instead of like these multinational corporations where you don't know what's in your stuff, and they have so much power globally, and you can just read about how, certain companies, their mistreatment of workers and things like that. So I don't think you'd have to be black to want to seek out, some other sources aside from these like multinational corporations. But the biggest wow for me while he was at the We Buy Black headquarters, and the guy he was talking to is Sharif Abdul Malik. I think he's the CEO. There is a black-owned cell phone company and cell phone service called Figures. That's what it's called, and it's not a play on that. That's actually the guy's name, you know. So yeah, that was like the biggest takeaway, because I was just like, wow, okay, that's awesome. So it's kind of funny that, you know, Killer Mike, he's a kind of a heavyset dude, and he has to bike around Atlanta because there are no black-owned car manufacturers. So to get from Atlanta to Athens, he actually charters a big, huge, like, charter bus, which is black-owned and is mainly used for church groups and things like that. So he's the only person on this this little trip. And also, we see how difficult it is for him to even find food. He sleeps out on a bench, which I'm pretty sure was just for optics, but a park bench because there weren't any black-owned hotels. But the biggest, I think the biggest challenge was him finding food. So he couldn't find like a black-owned food place, and when he did find a black-owned food place, the actual food, the meat, the vegetables weren't sourced from a black-owned farm. And this is a way to highlight like the tragedy of like food deserts in certain neighborhoods, and the demise of the black farmer in America. So although it seems a little cursory and a surface level, if you watch what I got watching just this first episode, is it does bring up a lot of deeper issues that really made me want to do my own research. So he was able to find a black-owned farm cooperative in, I believe it was in Athens, and I neglected to write that down, so I'll probably just drop it in the details below. And it was this older woman, I think she's in her 80s. Basically, there was a garden outside of an old school building where it used to be, you know, the primary source of education for people of color in the area. And Killer Mike brought up the point that at one point during segregation, although segregation was bad, it did force African Americans to purchase from other African Americans, which recycled the dollar in the community longer. And so then he starts the episode with this startling statistic, and I did write that down. It says like the Chinese community, they keep their dollar, it's recycled in their community 28 days before it leaves. The white community, on average, the dollar's recycled 23 days. The Jewish community, 21 days. And the black community, 8 hours. So as soon as we get our money, we go and patronize, you know, someone outside of the community, and then we wonder why our communities are, you know, underfunded and et cetera, et cetera. So I just thought that was like really, really, really interesting. So the episode, I won't give away like the ending because it's still kind of lighthearted. And, you know, the other half of his group, Run the Jewels, is a white guy. So, you know, there are what he refers to as white allies in this group. So it's not like anti-white or anything like that. But it does highlight the need for our pro-blackness in terms of like social movements to be a financial effort and a financial movement. So I would encourage watching the series. I'm going to continue to watch and review. If you've watched the first episode, please don't drop any spoilers about the other episodes. I mean, it's on Netflix, so you get the whole season all at once. But I will keep you posted, and I'll talk to you later.